So you're thinking about selling your home here in Arizona. Usually the first question I get asked is, Dave, what do you think our home would sell for? And it's a great question. It is what every seller should start with, but I actually would challenge you to start with, what are the odds that my home would sell right now? And where do you think that would sell for based on those odds? So it's the odds that I always start with. Dave Z, eXp Realty, Dave Z Home Team. So if you've ever sold a home with me, you know I start virtually first on a Zoom meeting before I used to do it in person. And the first thing we would cover is, I'm not really concerned about what this home sold for and what home that one sold for. Let's get down to the most important data. What are your exact odds of selling this type of home in today's market? And that's really tricky for the consumers, for you as a seller to figure out, but it's really tricky for realtors to figure out. There's really nothing that says that. So I adopted a software about 8 years ago that helped me really dig deep into that. And what we do is we're going to take like 5 to 10 years with the data. It just depends on how much data we have. And let's look at your home like it was a car, like if it's a Camry or a Lexus or a BMW or a Tesla, like let's try to figure out what type, like the product, like what is it that we're selling? And then let's look at all the data points for like 5 years. So I want to look at how many sellers try to sell but canceled or expired, took the home off the market, how many builder sales are going on. So we just dig through a lot of data. The last one I just did had over 700 data points that we were studying. And what I was able to find at the end of it was, hey, you have a 58% chance of selling your house. Here's why. Historically, in this area for this type of home, whether, right, if we say, oh, this is a Camry, we're not gonna worry about pickup trucks. We're only going to look at this. So let's just look at the homes that your buyer would go buy. Well, once we did that, we found the pattern. And for this area, we sold 3 homes a month. That's it. That, we would go up and down. But if I looked at 24 and 23 and 2022, going all the way back, we typically sold between like 30 and 40 of these houses. Somewhere around 35 is the average. So if you were a buyer in that area, every year, about 35 of these types of homes would come up. Now you can go find that same home, but it might be an hour away. So we're not worried about it. So we just focus in kind of like what an appraiser would do. Say, this is what we're going to compare to. So we do comps, right? But it's really about finding that cadence of how many of these are selling. So once we find that out, we can do the math and we say, hey, there's 10 listed for sale and the 10 of you are trying to fight over 3 buyers a month. You're going to be the 11th. Based on the buying pattern, we also think 5 more will list in the next 90 days. And it really gives you an accurate picture of what your competition is going to look like, because just because your neighbor sold for, let's call it $600,000, well, if those same floor plans are now listed for $400,000, we don't have to, that comparable sale doesn't really matter to the buyer. The buyer just cares about what is active right now. I kind of compare it to a gas station. Homes are obviously something we live in, we raise our families in. Some of them have nicer upgrades. But if you think about housing with this analogy, if I need gas and there's 4 gas stations on the corner, I'm going to go probably to the cheapest one as long as they're all reputable gas companies, right? I'm looking at that price per gallon, and they're all going to be very similar. And if one gas station said, well, 2 years ago, my neighbor owned a gas station, he was getting $5.50 a gallon. So I really want that $5.50 a gallon because I need it to pay for weddings, and I've got this other house I want to go buy. So the more I can get, the better. So because they sold for $5.50 a gallon, I'm going to sell for $5.50 a gallon. Well, they're not going to sell any gas as long as there's 3 gas stations around them offering $3.30 a gallon. So think of your house, it's more important what's for active for sale than what it just sold for. What it just sold for kind of gives us a guideline of what price should be and what buyers should expect to pay. But I've used this to get sellers a lot more money, or advise sellers to maybe wait or give them their realistic expectation. In Arizona, about 35% of homes don't sell historically. It's about 67% of our homes actually sell. The other 33 cancel, come off the market. And I think a lot of those sellers wouldn't have even gone through the trouble had somebody presented this data up front and said, listen, your odds of selling are 58%. That was the number I gave to somebody yesterday. It's 58% because these are all the sellers that couldn't sell in the last 12 months. These are all the people that did close. These are the active homes. So we just know there's this many sellers to this many buyers, and every market's different. So before you list your property for sale, meet with me. I will tell you what your exact odds are, and then we'll put a plan together and say, okay, if we know this is how many buyers come along, this is our competition, where should we be priced in that competition? And I've used it to take very similar homes that sell in the 350 to 400 range, where they're very identical, and we've got 100,000 more because there's nothing for sale. And we knew at that moment when we listed, we were in the better balance of supply and demand. I just advised somebody not to list $1 million home because I said, your odds are really low. They're like in the 40s because this is how many we sell. There's 22 on the market. Do you want to be the 23rd one? And it's going to be a race to the bottom. So every price point in market is different. But instead of starting with, Dave, what should my home sell for? It's, Dave, what are the odds it would sell? So what would I have to do to achieve those odds? And we just do the math, and then we try to massage the price based on upgrades and features and things like that. But start with your odds whenever you're going to sell something, and find a realtor, ideally that's me, who can break down those odds for you and show you with clarity, this is your chance. This is a really strong chance. And I'll tell you, anytime you're above 75%, it's pretty good. Most sellers want to be at 100%, but I've never seen a market where 100% of the homes sell, but you have people who are trying to get unrealistic pricing. So most important thing you can find is how many buyers regularly buy your type of home. Is it 3 a month? Is it 4 a month? Is it 10 a month? And then what does your active competition look like? Start with that and you'll have a lot more success. So it's what we do. Reach out. I'm happy to give you those odds for free. Even if you're not thinking about selling right now, you're like, Dave, I'm just curious, what are my odds right now? I can run that for you. Hope this was helpful. Look forward to connecting with you.